Exposed, the life-changing moment when a CEO's daughter discovered an incredible waitress with a heart of gold. Sarah Hartman felt like a feather caught in the weighty winds of her family name. Born into a world of opulence, she was always defined by her father's towering presence, the powerful CEO of Hartman Industries. Invitations to exclusive galas flooded in like waves, and her days were stitched together by silk and service, not reality. She was suffocating under the pressure to stay polished and perfect, longing for something beyond the confines of her silver spoon existence. One day, that longing turned to action. She decided to surprise her father by visiting his old haunt, a cozy diner tucked away in Bridgeport, a world that seemed to belong to a different era. Stepping through the diner's door felt like entering a parallel universe. The familiar scent of fried food and coffee enveloped her, drawing her into an unfathomable comfort. Then she saw her. Jessie. A 28-year-old waitress with a smile bright enough to light up the darkest corners of the diner. She moved with grace, deftly managing plates and coffee mugs, her laughter a balm for weary hearts. In her presence, Sarah felt the stark contrast of their lives. Jessie served while juggling multiple jobs, caring for her disabled veteran father, yet her spirit shone through every interaction. As Sarah settled into a booth, she caught snippets of conversation, community, warmth, laughter. Jessie exuded an energy that was infectious. The unease that had clung to Sarah slowly began to ease, though the world she knew loomed heavily around her. When Jessie approached, their small talk quickly transformed into something deeper. Sarah listened intently, captivated by Jessie's stories of strength amidst struggle. She was a living testament to the power of hard work, illuminating the invisible walls that her wealth had built around her. Just as Sarah began to let go of her preconceived notions and embrace a connection with this extraordinary woman, disaster struck. A sudden crash erupted from the kitchen, smoke billowing through the diner. Panic ensued. Jessie leaped into action like a flame herself, drawing on every ounce of courage to keep the diners calm. But Sarah could see the worry etched across Jessie's face, compounded by the intensity of her father's health crisis. Sarah's heart raced as she grappled with her privilege. Standing there, she felt the bore of expectation tower over her to retreat back to her glittering but hollow life. Yet, in the chaos, a fire ignited within her. She realized her opportunity for something real, something that mattered. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As community members rushed to help, Sarah hesitated. Should she leap into the whirlwind and offer her assistance, risking the wrath of her father? Or was she to remain an observer, cocooned in her privilege? A swell of voices surrounded her, and she fought back tears as she opened her mouth to scream, to step forward. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would Sarah choose the comfortable facade of her status or embrace the messy, beautiful chaos that was reality? The flames danced before her, symbolic of her own turmoil, and as she took a breath, the boundaries of her life began to blur. Would she find the courage to break free and forge a new path alongside Jessie? Heart of gold. The flames flickered just beyond the kitchen door, casting eerie shadows across Sarah's face. The diner was a flurry of movement. People rushed around, trying to douse the flames, pushing through the veil of chaos that had breached the diner's familiarity. Jessie's voice broke through the noise, steady and commanding, "Stay calm, everyone." Her complexion was pale, but her spirit screamed resilience. With a deep inhale, Sarah made her decision. The world she'd known, his world, had always been a safe haven, but at that moment, it felt suffocating. She gathered her courage and stepped into the fray. As she moved, she felt the weight of her family name slipping away, the glitter of her polished life fading with each step towards the unknown. Jessie. I can help. The words came tumbling out, almost unrecognizable to her own ears. Jessie turned, her eyes wide with surprise but filled with gratitude. You don't have to. No, I want to. Sarah insisted, cutting through the last remnants of hesitation. They moved in sync, grabbing towels and water, anything at hand. Jessie directed a few patrons to help clear the tables, while Sarah wiped down a counter, collecting used utensils and glasses. She felt the grime on her hands, the sweat on her brow, but it was liberating. The corner of the diner remained in chaos, smoke curling and folding over itself, but they were fighting it back together. Hold this. Jessie shouted, handing her a fire extinguisher. Sarah took it, feeling its weight, a tangible reminder that she was fully present, a participant in this moment of raw vulnerability. Just aim for the base. Jessie instructed, her calm presence instilling a burst of adrenaline in Sarah. She squeezed the handle, foam exploding outward, casting white over the smoke. In the tumult, lines blurred, they were no longer from different worlds. They were teammates tackling a common foe. Sarah felt the adrenaline pounding in her veins, her heart racing not out of fear but exhilaration. As other hands joined the cause, some familiar faces from the diner stepped in to assist. Sarah caught sight of some faces she had known for years but never truly recognized. They were hardworking men and women, showing up for each other. Here, they weren't defined by titles or wealth. They were just people. With one last effort, they pushed back the flames, extinguishing the last flicker of danger. Sarah's lungs burned, the smell of smoke wafting through her hair. She turned to Jessie, who wore a look of fierce determination mixed with relief. Their eyes locked, and in that gaze, an undeniable bond formed, a connection that needed no explanation. The slight applause from the gathered crowd broke the moment. They stood together, breathing in the aftermath, steam mingling with the scent of burnt food and lingered laughter. Sarah could feel her cheeks flushed, not just from exertion but from a new understanding of her place in the world. Then, Jessie's expression shifted, shadows of worry returning. My dad, I need to. Let me, Sarah cut in, her heart pounding. Show me where he is. As they rushed towards the back room, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. She was stepping into a life she had never dared to imagine, tethered to a woman who wore strength like armor. But would Sarah be strong enough to hold on as the realities of Jessie's struggles unfolded? As they burst through the door, Sarah's heart raced again, this time with uncertainty. There he was, frail and weak, the embodiment of everything Jessie fought for. Would Sarah's privilege be of use here, or would it only serve as a barrier? The next chapter of her life was unfolding, and its path was filled with questions, not answers. As she knelt beside Jessie, she could feel the ground shifting beneath them, and as fear flickered in Jessie's eyes, the real story was just beginning. Exposed, the life-changing moment when a CEO's daughter discovered an incredible waitress with a heart of gold. Sarah knelt beside Jessie's father, who lay on the small cot still and weary. The sight twisted her stomach. His frail body was covered with a thin blanket, his chest rising and falling slowly. Jessie leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Dad, it's me, she whispered, her voice cracking. The old man stirred slightly, opening his eyes, squinting against the harsh light. A weak smile flickered across his face when he saw Jessie. You're here. His voice was barely a whisper, yet it was filled with profound love. He's weak, but he's alert, Sarah noted, glancing at Jessie. What can we do? Jessie straightened up, a wave of determination washing over her features. We just need to get him to the hospital for further treatment, she said, urgency in her tone. I called before the fire started. They're waiting for him. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. She felt a surge of helplessness as she glanced around the small room, taking in the neglected walls and piled boxes of stale food. The stark contrast to her world was even more pronounced here. There were no polished floors or gourmet meals. Jessie's hand trembled as she reached for her dad's. We'll get you there, Dad. I promise. Anxiety wove through her words, and Sarah could see the weight of the struggle etched on her friend's face. "Make it quick," Sarah suggested. "I'll grab the car." She turned but felt the heaviness of the moment lingering behind her. She rushed outside, pulling open the diner door, the cacophony of voices and footsteps engulfing her again. Her heart thudded loudly in her chest, each pulse echoing the gravity of the situation. She fumbled for her phone, trying to shake off her nerves. Calling for the car took only moments, but it felt like hours as she paced back and forth. Finally, a cab pulled up. Sarah hopped in without hesitation, knowing that every second counted. "The community hospital, please," she instructed, leaning against the window, the scenery blurring past her as she wrestled with her thoughts. What had driven her to this moment? She had all the privilege she could possibly want, yet here she was dragged into a world of urgency and need. Would helping Jessie change her? Would it change them both? When they arrived, Sarah rushed into the hospital entrance, breathless, trying to calculate the best way to assist. The waiting room was filled with families, all faces marked with worry and fear. Jessie needed help, and Sarah was determined to provide it. As she scanned the room, her eyes landed on a nurse who looked overwhelmed by the chaos, juggling responsibility, calling out patient names while soothing anxious relatives. Without thinking, Sarah approached her. "Do you need help?" Surprise flickered across the nurse's face, but she nodded. "Yes, I could use an extra pair of hands. Come this way." With each step, Sarah felt her confidence growing. She wasn't only a spectator, she was becoming part of something larger, something meaningful. In the midst of the frantic energy of the hospital, Sarah spotted Jessie through the glass windows of a triage room. She was sitting beside her father, their expressions a mix of hope and fear. It was raw, unfiltered, and utterly real. As Sarah worked alongside the staff, a sharp realization struck her: privilege meant responsibility. She could no longer stand aside in the comfortable confines of her old world. The time had come for her to step up. When Jessie finally left the room, her eyes glistened with tears. She didn't need words. The moment spoke volumes. A transformation was unfolding. Just then, a doctor approached. "Any family for Mr. Ramirez?" Sarah's heart stopped. She glanced at Jessie, whose expression showed a mix of dread and determination. Could she find the strength to face what came next? The room felt charged with possibilities, the air thick with unspoken challenges. The journey had just begun, and amidst the fear, a flicker of bravery burned brightly. Would Sarah be able to navigate this new reality? As she stood beside Jessie, the bond between them strengthened. But as darkness loomed, one question echoed in her mind: what would the next moment reveal about their lives, and would she be ready to confront the truth of her past to embrace this new path? Heart of gold. Jessie's breaths came in quick bursts as she faced the doctor, her heart racing. The sterile smell of the hospital mixed with the fluttering tension in her chest. "I'm his daughter," she said, voice steady even if her insides felt like a storm. The doctor nodded, his expression professional yet kind. "We need to stabilize Mr. Ramirez before we can assess further." He gestured for Jessie to sit. "You might want to brace yourself. It's going to be a long night." Sarah stepped closer, ready to share Jessie's fear. "What's wrong with him?" she pressed, desperate to know how she could help. "Pneumonia, but he has other complications that make it more serious," the doctor replied, keeping his tone flat yet sensitive. "We'll do everything we can. You'll need to fill out some paperwork, and then we'll get him into a proper room." As the doctor left, Jessie looked at Sarah, her eyes wide with uncertainty. What if he doesn't make it? The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken grief. "There's hope," Sarah said, her own heart aching. "They can't give up on him. You shouldn't either." She squeezed Jessie's hand, an anchor in the growing chaos. Time blurred as they navigated the darkness of the night. Hours ticked by, each one stretched longer by worry. Jessie filled out forms, her fingers trembling as she wrote down information about her father. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside her. "Are you hungry?" Sarah asked hesitantly, hoping to distract them both. "Maybe we could grab something from the cafeteria." Jessie shook her head, her focus laser-sharp. "I can't leave here. I need to be close to him." The waiting area transformed as the night progressed. More families appeared, and soft murmurs filled the space. A couple holding hands nearby whispered soothingly to each other, while a woman cradled a baby, rocking gently, trying to find comfort in the midst of fear. Sarah watched, her heart heavy. She thought of her own family, her parents wrapped up in their own world, oblivious to the struggles of those like Jessie. At that moment, the disparity between both their lives felt overwhelming. "Jessie," Sarah said quietly, breaking the silence. "We grew up in different worlds, but that doesn't mean we can't help each other. You're not alone in this." Jessie turned to her, her expression softening for the first time that night. "I appreciate that, Sarah. It's just, I feel so lost right now." Just then, a nurse appeared, her voice breaking the tension. "Can family members of Mr. Ramirez come into the triage room? We're ready for you." Jessie's breath hitched as she locked eyes with Sarah. "Let us go," she whispered, standing up and straightening her shoulders. Together, they moved down the hallway to where the doctor awaited them again. Jessie's heart pounded, each step a mix of fear and resolve. This was at the moment she had prepared for. When they entered the room, the buzz of machinery and the bright fluorescent lights felt overwhelming. Her father lay on the bed, tubes connected, but there was still a flicker of life in his eyes that steadied her. "Dad," Jessie breathed, rushing to his side, holding his hand like it was made of glass. "I'm here." Sarah hovered behind her, feeling the intensity of the moment, wishing she could take away even a fragment of Jessie's pain. The added weight of uncertainty made Sarah's heart ache. Would she have the strength to face what unfolded next? As the doctor began to speak, outlining the treatment options, Jessie fought hard to focus on his words. But a deeper fear loomed, and dread curled its fingers around her heart. Would the strength she found in that moment be enough to carry them through what was to come? And as they faced the night ahead, one question surged to the surface: would anything in their lives ever be the same again? Jessie squeezed her father's hand tighter, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The rhythmic beeping of the machines felt like an echo of her anxiety, amplifying each second as she listened to the doctor lay out the treatment plan. It was a blur: antibiotics, observation, specialists on standby. The words tangled in her mind, mixing with the fear that had taken root since she arrived. "Jessie," Sarah said softly, nudging her shoulder. Maybe you should ask him something. Something personal. It might help." Jessie glanced at her father's still face. The pallor of his skin made her stomach twist. "What if I've lost him already?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "No. Please don't think that way." Sarah's grip remained firm. "He is here now. Focus on what matters." "Dad," Jessie said louder, her voice thick with emotion. "If you can hear me, I need you to stay with me. Please." For a moment, she saw his eyelids flicker. Hope surged within her, pushing the fear deeper into the shadows where it belonged. She couldn't lose him, not now, not after everything they'd overcome together. But the truth clawed at her. The hospital, the tubes, the machines, it was all so clinical, so far removed from the life they shared. They were supposed to fight together against life's battles, but now it felt like she was doing it alone. "We're going to get through this, right?" she said, half to him and half to herself. Hours passed, the night grinding on as conversation and silence ebbed and flowed. Jessie leaned into her father's side, her eyes heavy, yet unable to close. Sarah hadn't abandoned her, she sat quietly, providing a presence, a lifeline in the dark sea of uncertainty. "Do you want to take a break?" Sarah offered quietly, glancing up at the clock, which seemed to mock them with its slow ticks. "I can stay here with him for a while." "No," Jessie said, shaking her head. I need to be here. I can't leave." Just then, a commotion in the hallway drew their attention. A man was speaking urgently, his voice rising. Jessie squinted and saw a hunched figure, a man with wild hair and a frantic demeanor pacing near the nurse's station. "Where is she? Please, I need to see her," he cried. The desperation in his voice sent chills through Jessie. She turned back to her father, heart racing, thinking of her own fears. "Jessie," that Sarah began, clearly unsettled by the scene. "That could be someone in a really bad situation." "Yeah," Jessie replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like us, trapped in the hospital, desperate." As the minutes moved, the man's cries continued to cut through the air, growing louder, more frantic. "We can't lose her. She's everything. Please." His voice cracked, raw and brutal, piercing through the sterile walls. Something inside Jessie shifted. She felt helplessness wash over her, accompanied by a flicker of a painful reality. What if she lost her father too? The thought sent a tremor through her. Sarah's hand found her shoulder. "Hey, let us focus on him, okay? Remember, you're not alone in this. We can get through it together." Jessie nodded, swallowing back tears. She needed to stay strong to pull the pieces together. But before she could gather her thoughts, the door to the room swung open, and a doctor appeared, his face grave. Just behind him stood a nurse, supporting the frantic man from the hallway. "Mr. Ramirez?" the doctor said, pulling Jessie from her thoughts. "We need to talk about your father's condition." Panic clutched at Jessie's throat, her heart racing as the reality of the moment sank in. The air seemed to thicken, tension coiling around them like a noose. What would the doctor say? What would it mean for her and her father? And as the doctor began to speak, one question quietly loomed in her mind: how much more could she endure before her world shattered completely? Jessie's breath caught in her throat as she leaned forward, desperate to hear every word the doctor would say. The soft sound of the doctor's voice blended with the relentless urgency of the monitoring machines, creating an unsettling symphony that drowned out everything else. "Your father's condition is critical," the doctor said, eyes locked on Jessie. "He's battling an infection that's affecting his organs. We need to stabilize him before considering further steps." Each word felt like a stone dropped in her stomach, heavy and unrelenting. She couldn't help the tears that rolled down her cheeks. "What does that mean?" she choked out, hoping against hope. "We've already started aggressive treatment. But we need you to prepare for the possibility that." He paused, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "We may need to make difficult decisions if he doesn't respond." Jessie squeezed her father's hand again, as if her grip alone could will him back. "No. He's going to get better. I believe that," she insisted, her voice fiercer than she felt inside. She felt Sarah's hand tighten around her shoulder, a silent show of support. The nurse, who had been holding the man from the hallway, now hurried past them, rushing to answer the doctor's earlier calls. The chaos outside only amplified Jessie's sense of isolation, her world constricting around her like a vice. "That man, the one who cried out," Jessie said, her mind racing back to that moment. "Is he okay? Did he find his loved one?" The doctor looked toward the door, hesitating before answering. "I can't say for sure. But the staff is working hard to help everyone. Focus on your dad for now." Jessie nodded, but her heart felt heavy with the ache of others' pain. How many stories were unfolding in this hospital at that moment? How many families were fighting battles just like hers? "Jessie," Sarah said gently, pulling her back from the brink of despair. "What if you told him about the garden? Remember the last time you worked on it together?" Jessie blinked as memories flooded her mind. The summer sunshine, her father's laughter as they planted the flowers, the way they joked about growing the most outrageous vegetables. Dad loved those tomatoes, she murmured, her chest tightening. Then tell him about it. It'll remind him of home, of you. With a deep breath, Jessie looked at her father's still face. Dad, do you remember the garden? The tomatoes are finally ripe. You always said they tasted better when we grew them ourselves. I can't wait to show you we'll eat them sliced with salt, just like you like. Nothing happened at first, the vital signs continued to beep in the rhythmic language of hope and fear. Yet, she could feel something shift within herself, an ember of determination igniting, not only for her father but for everyone, every story unfolding in this massive structure around them. As the minutes ticked slowly by, a flicker of movement caught her eye. His fingers twitched ever so slightly under her steady grip. Dad? Jessie leaned closer, her heart racing again, hope swelling within her like a wave. But without warning, an alarm blared out, piercing through the air, drawing attention to another corner of the ward. Jessie's heart dropped, time swirling around her like a storm. Stay with me, she breathed, her eyes glued to her father's face. I'm right here. Don't leave me. The doctor rushed to the source of the alarm, his face set in a determined focus. Jessie exchanged glances with Sarah, fear seeping into the corners of their eyes. Would they have time before something else shifted? The reality that life was precarious swirled around her. Just then, a nurse burst into the room. We're going to need you to step out for a moment. We have an emergency. Panic surged through Jessie. What about my dad? As they ushered her out, Jessie felt the ground beneath her shift with uncertainty. Her grip slipped from her father's hand as the door closed behind her. Would he be okay? Would he wake up to hear her voice again? And just like that, Jessie was left standing in the hall, alone and trembling, the weight of everything crashing down around her. The hardest part was yet to come. Would their love be enough to pull him back from the edge? She had to believe it. But at what cost was she willing to fight? As a storm brewed both outside and within her, Jessie understood one thing for certain, she was ready to confront whatever awaited them next. Jessie felt like a hollow shell as she paced the sterile hallway, her heart pounding. Sarah stood nearby, fidgeting with her phone, unable to find words that would ease the grip of dread encasing them. Jessie's mind raced with endless scenarios, each one worse than the last. The idea of her father's presence fading into nothingness seemed unbearable, like trying to grasp smoke with her bare hands. Across from her, she spotted a nurse rushing out of a room, her expression a mix of urgency and weariness. In an instant, Jessie felt compelled to speak up. Excuse me. Is my dad okay? Can you tell me anything? The nurse hesitated, glancing back towards the room where they had dragged her father moments before. We're doing everything we can. Just give us a little more time, she replied, her voice soft but firm. With that, she darted away, leaving Jessie feeling even more stranded. What if they can't save him? She whispered, feeling the tears well up again. What if I never get the chance to tell him, to hear him laugh again? Sarah stepped closer, her eyes shimmering with sympathy. We have to stay positive. Remember? All those times we watched him work in the garden, planting those ridiculous vegetables. That's what you need to lean on right now. As if summoned by her thoughts, a vision of her father returned, apron tied around his waist, cheerfully instructing her to plant seeds in neat rows. The twinkle in his eyes as they shared stories under the warmth of the sun was a treasure she'd never forget. I just want him back, Jessie admitted, a fresh wave of sorrow crashing over her. The echoes of hurried footsteps and hushed conversations filled the air, a stark reminder of the urgency felt by everyone in the hospital. She could almost feel the weight of each heart beating, all intertwined in this network of hope and despair. Each door seemed to harbor lives swinging on the precipice. She slowly sunk to her knees against the wall, her heart feeling like a lead weight, the tears streaming uncontrollably down her face. I don't know how to keep fighting, Sarah. I just don't know. Then without warning, she felt a gentle hand on her head. Jessie looked up, acknowledging a stranger who stood beside her, a woman in her late 40s, who looked like she had just endured some battle of her own. "Hey, sweetheart, I was where you are. Keep talking to him. Your voice, it carries so much power." Jessie noticed the warmth in her eyes, the shared understanding of pain. "My dad's been my rock. We talk about everything. He always believed in facing challenges head-on," she murmured, the words slipping between her trembling lips. The woman nodded sagely. "Then give him everything you've got. It's in the love you share that he'll find his strength." With a reassuring smile, she gingerly walked back towards the reception area, leaving Jessie in a whirlwind of emotions. Feeling a renewed sense of urgency, Jessie pushed herself up. She wouldn't abandon hope, not yet. Racing back to where the nurses hovered near her father's room, Jessie noticed small clusters of families waiting for news, faces etched with anguish and concern. Each of them clung to a scrap of hope, just as she had. Instinctively, she found herself reaching for her phone, her fingers trembling as she typed a message to her closest friends. "My dad is fighting for his life. Please send all the good vibes and prayers you can," it read. Hitting send felt like a lifeline being thrown into a turbulent sea. "Jessie, look!" Sarah exclaimed, her voice breaking through the fog. Jessie turned to see a gleam of activity in the distance, a doctor emerging from a room, glancing around. He appeared to have news. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, gripping Jessie's arm tightly. The anticipation was electric, tightening in Jessie's chest like a vice. She glanced at her father's door, a paralyzing mix of hope and apprehension swirling within. What is going to happen next? She whispered to herself, her heart racing. Would the doctor's update bring her the reassurance she craved, or would it shatter her already frail heart? Again. As the doctor began to speak, the world around them blurred, the weight of the moment crashing heavily on her shoulders. This was it. Everything hung in the balance. Heart full of truth and resilience. The doctor cleared his throat, and silence cascaded over the waiting room like a thick fog. His eyes searched the faces before him, finally landing on Jessie and Sarah. The tension was suffocating. Every breath felt like it could burst the fragile hope that held them together. "Jessie," he said, his voice steady, but there was an undercurrent of something serious in it. "We've stabilized your father, but we still need to monitor him closely." She felt a flicker of relief mixed with apprehension. "The next few hours are critical. I'm afraid we can't predict what might happen, but there's a chance." He paused, letting his words hang in the air like a tightrope stretching across the abyss. "What chance?" Jessie interjected, her heart racing. "What are you saying?" The doctor sighed. "I need you to stay strong for him. Talk to him, let him know you're here. Those connections matter more than you realize." His words struck a chord deep within Jessie. A surge of determination surged through her as she nodded, steeling herself against the uncertainty. I will. I promise," she stammered, her voice raw with emotion. As the doctor stepped away, Jessie felt Sarah's reassuring grip around her shoulders. The small gesture moved her, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. Together, they crept towards her father's room, the rhythmic beeping of machines echoing a haunting melody. Each beep was a reminder of the fragility of life. Inside the room, her father lay still, the hospital bed surrounded by a patchwork of tubes and wires. Jessie's heart sank as she took in the sight of him so vulnerable. She stepped closer, her breath shaky, battling the lump in her throat. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm here. Please fight for me." The machines surged with life around him as if responding to her plea, each breath he took a testament to the bond they'd built through the years. She remembered late nights spent laughing or the countless hours gardening side by side under the sun. Those cherished moments flooded back, igniting her burning desire to see him recover. "Come on, Dad," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "We have so much more to do. Remember the tomatoes? You were convinced we could win the county fair. A small noise escaped from him, a croak, but it gave Jessie hope. She instinctively leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I miss your jokes. I miss your laugh. Please come back to me. Tears pooled in her eyes, and she wished more than anything for him to respond. The silence felt all-encompassing, wrapping around her like a heavy blanket. In that moment, she could feel the weight of everything pressing down, but also a flicker of light beginning to break through. Just give me a sign, she rasped, squeezing his hand tightly. The clock ticked rhythmically in the background, but Jessie's world felt suspended, waiting on the brink of something monumental. Then, astonishingly, she felt a soft squeeze around her fingers. Her heart raced. Dad? She gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. Did you hear me? As she stared at him, she began to see hope reflected back in her father's eyes, the faintest glimmer of awareness sparking behind them. It wasn't over yet. But as joy surged through her, doubt wrestled back in, choking her thoughts. How much strength did he really have left? Jessie couldn't shake the haunting feeling that everything could still slip from her grasp. Just as she gathered her thoughts, she heard a commotion outside the door. Her heart sank. What now? She wondered anxiously. Jessie turned to Sarah, who mirrored her sense of dread. Something important was shifting outside. What is going on? Jessie murmured as chaos loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Her pulse quickened, every instinct tugging at her to find out, unwilling to let anything derail this fragile connection with her father. Jessie couldn't help but think, what if this moment, this chance to reconnect, was about to be shattered? Then, the door swung open wide, revealing a nurse with a frantic look of urgency. Jessie's heart raced. What news could she bring? Jessie, you need to come with me, the nurse said, breathless. It's urgent. In one heartbeat, the world unspooled. Jessie took one last look at her father, confusion and fear swirling within her. What awaited her on the other side of that door? Jessie's heart thundered in her chest as she pushed past the nurse, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. The hallway stretched before her, bright fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, blurring with uncertainty. Sarah followed closely behind, her presence a comforting anchor amidst the chaos. Though their steps quickened, a sense of dread clung to them like shadows. What is happening? Jessie managed, her voice barely above a whisper, fear curling around her words. The nurse glanced back, her face a mask of urgency. There's been a change in your father's condition. We need to assess some things. She continued down the corridor, her demeanor focused but anxious, pushing Jessie to the brink of despair. Each step felt heavier as they approached a waiting area filled with murmurs and worried expressions. Families huddled together, their faces etched with similar fears, igniting a shared understanding of uncertainty and vulnerability. The sterile smell of antiseptic was thick in the air, and Jessie felt her resolve wavering. As they reached another set of double doors, the nurse stopped, her eyes meeting Jessie's with a flicker of empathy. Please wait here for a moment. I'll get the doctor. With that, she slipped through the doors, leaving Jessie and Sarah in a suspended state of anxiety. Jessie's heart raced with a mix of hope and fear, each beat echoing in her ears. I can't lose him, she murmured, barely able to voice the horror that threatened to engulf her. The image of her father, fighting for life just moments ago, flickered in her mind. Jessie, Sarah said softly, squeezing her hand, grounding her as tears threatened to spill. He is a fighter. He needs you to stay strong, no matter what. There was strength in Sarah's voice, but it was difficult to draw on it when so much felt out of her control. Jessie nodded, attempting to muster every ounce of strength she possessed. I can't just stand here, she declared, her voice gaining clarity. I need to be with him. As she turned to push open the doors, Sarah stepped in front of her. Wait. Let us just see what they say first. Rushing in one to help him. The moment felt charged, their shared worry palpable in the air. Jessie swallowed hard, her throat tight. What if something happens? What if I miss my chance? Jessie, that's exactly what the doctor is worried about. Sarah's calmness was a soothing balm, her unwavering support lifting Jessie slightly from the brink. Before she could respond, the nurse returned alongside the doctor, who looked weary but resolute. Jessie, we need you to be prepared for what's coming, he said, his tone firm but compassionate. There might be a complication with your father's progress. We need your help to stabilize him further. Questions spiraled in Jessie's mind, each one gnawing at her. What do you mean? What's wrong? Is he? Please, the doctor interrupted gently. We need you to talk to him. We're going to try and lift his spirits. He needs to feel your presence more than ever. Jessie's heart ached as the weight of those words settled in. She was being tasked with something monumental, something she didn't want to take lightly. I can do that, she replied, her resolve crystallizing. Good. Remember what you told him earlier. He hears you. His eyes flicked toward Sarah and back. You can both go in, but you need to stay calm. Right now, all he needs is love. Jessie nodded, feeling a rush of determination. We'll be with him. We will fight this together. With purposeful strides, she entered the room, heart racing with hope. But then she froze, eyes widening. Her father lay still, yet the machines beeped furiously, a stark contrast to the serene silence she had hoped for. Jessie's breath caught. A nurse rushed to adjust a monitor, and dread seeped into the corners of her mind. Why was the rhythm changing? Jessie! Sarah's voice cut through, jolting her back, but as Jessie's gaze locked onto the monitor, she felt time stop, uncertainty flooding her once-lit hopes. Dad? She called, stepping closer, desperation creeping in. But as she looked at the screen, her heart plummeted further. Was it too late? In that moment, fear and vulnerability intertwined, a sharp reminder that every second counted. Would her words be enough? Just as she braced herself to speak, a sudden alarm blared through the room. The nurse's face turned ashen. I need you to step back, she commanded, her voice urgent. Jessie's mind raced. What had she walked into? Was this the moment everything changed, or was it just the beginning of another battle? With questions swirling, Jessie braced herself for whatever would come next. Would she be ready for the fight of her life? Jessie felt her heart clench as chaos erupted around her. The alarms pierced through her like icy daggers, tightening the grip of panic around her chest. The nurse's voice became a distant murmur, drowned out by the frantic beeping of machines and her own racing thoughts. I need to be with him. Jessie cried, her resolve surging against the tide of fear. Sarah moved alongside her, grounding Jessie with an unwavering presence. We'll do this together, she whispered, and Jessie felt an unfamiliar strength flowing through her. Together, they stepped closer to her father's bed. The nurses worked swiftly, their faces set in focused determination. He's fighting, Sarah said softly, placing a calming hand on Jessie's shoulder. He needs you. Talk to him. Jessie nodded, her hands trembling as she reached for her father's. Dad, it's me, she said, her voice breaking. She leaned closer, swallowing back tears. I'm here. Remember the garden? The tomatoes we planted? You always said they were the best because we grew them together. You can't leave me. We have to get back to that. With every word, she felt a burning hope ignite within her. Even through the fear, she sensed a flicker of strength within herself, a light that pushed back against the shadows of despair. Then, amidst the frantic activity, she saw it, a faint movement in her father's hand, just the slightest squeeze. Her heart soared. See? She whispered, watching the monitor with rapt attention. The beeping steadied, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. You're still here, Dad. Stay with me. The nurses paused for just a moment, glancing at the monitor. The tension in the air shifted slightly, a collective breath held in the room. Then, they resumed their efforts, calling out instructions and working with intense focus, keeping them all tethered to this fragile moment of possibility. "Look at you," Jessie continued, tears spilling down her cheeks but mixing with a smile. "You always told me to fight for what mattered. I'm here, Dad. You've always been my hero. I believe in you." The moment stretched like hours, but gradually, the chaos lessened. The alarms fell silent, replaced with a steadier rhythm of beeping, a sign her father was managing to hold on. Jessie began to breathe again, drawing strength from the tenacity that lay within her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the doctor entered the room again, a cautious smile breaking through the tension. "He's responding to the treatment. We're not out of the woods yet, but he is fighting. You did good, Jessie. Stay with him. Keep talking." A wave of gratitude flooded Jessie, relief and love mixed together, warm like sunlight breaking through the clouds. She turned to Sarah, whose eyes glistened with unshed tears of their own. "We did this," Jessie whispered, and Sarah's smile was radiant, affirming the bond they had forged through the darkness. As the minutes turned into hours, Jessie recounted stories of their past, of joyful summers spent in the garden, of bad jokes about vegetables, of dreams they shared. Her words painted vibrant pictures in the sterile room, wrapping her father in the warmth of their memories. Hours later, the room turned quiet, a peaceful calm settling in as her father's breaths became deeper, steadier. Just as Jessie felt hope begin to unfurl, the room caved and a final sigh echoed around them. "Dad?" The reality hit Jessie like a freight train, and she held her breath, hoping against hope for another squeeze, another sign. But the world paused, time holding its breath as well. "Please, don't go," she pleaded, feeling desperation claw at her chest. And then, like a miracle, his fingers tightened around hers. Jessie gasped, and gratitude filled her, spilling over like the sunshine she had missed so much. Sarah threw her arms around Jessie, and together they laughed through the tears, embracing as the weight of uncertainty dissolved into a shared knowing, love had brought them here. Days passed, and as her father regained strength, Jessie realized something deeper had shifted within herself, too. She wasn't just the CEO's daughter, she was a fighter. A connection had blossomed, stronger than any artificial barriers she had lived on either side of. Finally, standing beside her father's hospital bed, his weak but steady smile met hers. "Remember the tomatoes," he whispered, and tears of joy streamed down Jessie's cheeks. "You've always been my little gardener. I promise, we'll grow the biggest garden yet," she vowed, knowing this new chapter was just beginning. Together, they would face what lay ahead, not just as family but as a community, forever woven together in resilience and love. The world felt limitless again, open like the vast sky above. As they stepped into the future, Jessie turned to Sarah, who stood supporting her with a radiant smile. Together, they shared a look full of promise and confidence, knowing they would just keep reaching for each other through the storms that life would surely bring. Moments would change, but this connection, this heart of gold, would endure. Now, it's your turn to keep these amazing stories going. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, show your appreciation. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait not even one more second to share with those who matter.